Hey guys, eventually everyone comes across this in their pantry. They'll buy onions and forget they're in there, go back to their pantry and they'll find this and they'll see a little bit of mold growing on it, a little bit of softness on the outer part, and think, well, this onion has sprouted, it's no good, and they toss it in the trash. But that's actually what you shouldn't do. You should make it into new onions. Let's head into the greenhouse and I'll show you exactly how that process takes place. So guys, if you're wanting to eat these onions, they may be slightly more bitter because they have sprouted and they've tried to reproduce themselves. So most of the onions in the bag that I found were just like this. They're perfectly fine and ready to cook with, eat. But once they go into this stage, that's when we can make new onions and start all over. So I'm going to bring you a little bit closer and show you exactly what the process is for breaking down this onion to start new onions. Now guys, this one is showing some new root growth on the bottom, but most of this is the old roots. So we want to carefully peel away the outer layers of the onion because there could be new sets of roots growing under the skin. So we just want to do that very carefully, and we may have to take our knife to remove some of these layers, but more than likely there could be a root or two growing under that. So we just want to kind of peel away the outer layers one section at a time and look carefully for any roots that might be growing under there. Just going to take these off. No, there was one right there. See that? That is a root that was growing in between the layers. So that's why we want to, rather than just cut away and remove the inner bulb area, we want to just kind of carefully remove the outer parts of the onion. Now here's a whole bunch of roots right here. You can see that. That is what we're looking for when we carefully tear away the outer layers of this onion, and we're going to try to turn this into multiple onions. As you can see, what I'm doing right here is I'm just removing layers. You can see there's more growth up underneath. You just kind of want to do this gently and slowly so you don't damage the onion that's growing on the inside. And just again at the bottom, just carefully break these off so we don't damage the new white roots that are growing in the interior of the onion. Just carefully pull that, and you can see there's quite a bit of roots there. Now on the top, looks like we're going to get multiple onions out of this. So we're going to take one onion and turn it into multiple onions in our garden. So rather than being something that ends up in the trash, we're going to have something that multiplies our onions. And see, as you can see right there, we've got two onions. I'm going to carefully separate this and try not to break it. I may have to take my knife because I don't want to damage it. So I'm just going to carefully cut. Carefully cut at the bottom and try to break that off. So we have ending up with, and this will still grow, even though we don't have any roots on here, it will start growing new roots very soon. But we have, now we went from one onion to two onions. So we'll keep doing this process and just carefully break it apart. It's a little hard to do when your eyes are watering, but let's see there. We're going to carefully remove these outer hills. Now you're to the interior, and you can see it looks like we may actually have 3 more onion plants in here. Okay, let's keep splitting and see how many actual onions we produce. I'm just trying to carefully, I mean just as slow as you can, pull them apart. Now, this one has all its roots intact, so this will become a new onion. I don't think there's 2 there, so that's our second onion we're going to produce. And I'm going to look at this and see, this may just be 1. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is just 1 onion. We're just going to carefully remove that. Yep. So we went from 1 onion that was going to most likely end up in the trash to 3 possible new onions that we're going to start. So guys, with the 2 parts we have of the onion that do have roots, we could probably send those directly into potting soil. But the one that just has no visible roots, there may be just a very fine small root there, we're going to put that in a net cup and then also put it in our plastic cup. And if you have something like a bulb vase, that you grow avocados in, or a flower vase, that can also be a great way to start it. But I'm just going to do a little improvisation here and put this into our net cup. It's a little bit tricky to get it in there. And then that way our onion won't be submerged totally underwater. It'll be sitting, and we're going to fill it up to water just to where, right below where that root system will form, we're going to have the water just barely touching it, so the roots will send out into the water, and then this one will eventually be ready to go into the soil or compost. So guys, we're going to get rid of our debris here, and we're going to go through each onion that has sprouted, and we're going to see how many potential onions we're going to be able to grow from these 6 onions that we started with. So guys, this is the end result of our 5 onions that were destined for the trash can into about 18 potential onions. Most of them do have roots attached. There's a few that don't. Those are the ones that will be going into the cups. And actually, I didn't count this one, so actually it was 19. But if they don't have roots, I would recommend putting them in a container like this if you have a bud vase or something, because these are a little bit smaller. But if your onion is larger, you might be able to get away with just setting it into a small mouthed jar of some type. But in my case, these are a lot smaller, so I'm going to use this system right here to hold it in place until I see some roots growing out. Once that happens, we'll be able to go to the next step. Sorry guys, I think I'm being backlit by the sun here in the greenhouse, and I know I'm probably giving off a glow. But anyways, so as I said earlier, we're going to start the ones that don't have any type of visible roots. Like a lot of these have 1 or 2 small roots. That's fine. We could go directly into our compost. And what I'm using is I'm going to put these directly into a worm casting. Pure worm castings. I'll link that down below. We put it in the worm casting, and I'm going to put a little bit of bone meal around the top and then lightly mulch it with some finely ground pine bark, and that will kind of keep the soil moisture stabilized. And so this way we can start our onions. If it's in the fall when you're doing this, you could grow them in your greenhouse in a window and then transfer them outside once the temperatures get up to the right level. Early spring is probably okay, and if you're in the right zone, you may be able to go directly out to the garden with your new potential onions. Now guys, about your onions that had no roots attached, you need to soak them in the water for about 5 to 7 days, and you need to wait until the roots reach about 1 inch in length before you go on to planting them directly into your compost. So guys, the ones that do have a root system started, those are the ones we're going into our worm castings. You also want to plant them all the way up to where you see green. They're going to be completely under the soil, and that way they'll be ready to go, and we don't have to worry about rot. So we're just going to kind of push these in a little deeper. And remember, there's also going to be a very thin layer of pine bark after we put in our bone meal, which is going to help with our root system. Bone meal has a high phosphorus count in the NPK, and so we're going to just sprinkle that around the onion to make sure that phosphorus works its magic on our onion. And the last step will be adding the pine mulch. So this is our finely shredded pine mulch. If you have access to a Lowe's in your area, they sell this as soil conditioner. It's in a very large bag, and so that will help stabilize the soil moisture and get our onions off to a head start. And these will eventually make their way to the garden. Okay guys, I'm going to go through our 12 pots of worm casting and plant up 12 of our rooted onions. So guys, on this particular batch of 12, I'm going to do a little experiment. Rather than using the bone meal and going the organic route, I'm going to use Schultz Bloom Plus 105410, and I think that's going to help with the bulb growth and the root growth even faster. This product has an incredibly high phosphorus count, which is the 54 and 105410, so that's why I always recommend using this if you're wanting to grow rhizomes or large roots, or in this case, bulbs. So I've mixed up our Schultz Bloom Plus, and rather than watering from the top, I think I'm going to wash out a lot of soil. So I'm just going to water from the side and fill up our tray to about halfway. So each one of these pots, which has a hole in the bottom of it, will wick up the water and water from beneath. And I'm just checking to make sure that we're not going over halfway up the pot. We just want to make sure the bottom of each one of these 4-inch pots are sitting into the water, so it will wick the water right into the bulb. So guys, if you go into your pantry and you discovered your onions have all sprouted because you've neglected them and forgot they were in there, take a chance and do this process right here, because I think you'll really be happy with the end result. You'll end up, instead of a few onions that go into the trash, you'll end up multiplying your onions, and you could do this process repeatedly over and over, and end up with a whole bag of onions. Finally, guys, I just want to say thanks so much for watching. If I left anything out, or if you want to add anything, please leave a comment down below, and I hope you'll like and subscribe. Have a great day.